Pierre, present. Kyle, present. Dan, present. Pierre, Elliot Freeman threw out speculation that Erik Karlsson may land with the Toronto Maple Leafs because of the Swedish connection in behind the bench and in the front office. Your thoughts on Karlsson landing with the Leafs?
I've been hearing most of the summer that Erik Karlsson could be in play. Doesn't mean that it's going to be Toronto. I mean, it could be Ottawa as well, who desperately need some offense from their defense. So when you look at it, I'm not just saying it's Toronto or Ottawa. There could be other places too that Erik could land if in fact he's traded. That being said, they've done a pretty good upheaval with their defense in Pittsburgh. When you think about Ryan Shea's now in Edmonton, Parker Wotherspoon is in Vegas. Those are two critical components to their team. And they both moved. One went as a free agent, one was traded. But, it's going to be interesting to see. I think Pittsburgh has done a nice job re-energizing their brand after missing the playoff 3 years in a row. They made the playoffs last year. But I think they're still like in the middle of this, I don't want to say rebuild, but retool, reorganization, whatever you want to call it. Could Karlsson end up in Toronto? Maybe. Could he end up in Ottawa? Maybe. Could he end up somewhere else? Maybe. I think Erik Karlsson before the end of the year could be somewhere else.
Yeah, Pierre, that all kind of stands to reason because you have to get something back for him while he still has value. He's a little later on in his career, and maybe it would perhaps be a mistake for the Pittsburgh Penguins not to deal this guy while he still holds value because that'll dip every season. But he would have quite a bit of control over that process by at this point in his career, I would imagine. And I mean, just speculating or wishful thinking, whatever it is, it does seem like the Toronto Maple Leafs would be a potentially ideal fit for him because of their recent roster changes.
Yeah, and especially when you look at obviously Sundin going there and you look at Alfredson being there now. The one thing I'd say is Erik did win a Norris Trophy out in San Jose, but the guy that really helped get his career back on track is Todd Nelson. Todd Nelson did a fantastic job with him as an assistant coach in Pittsburgh last year. Dan Muse was a head coach, and he deserves some credit too. But Erik got his thing back on track, and most of the year he played with Parker Wotherspoon as his partner on the left side. And that was a really good tandem. I don't know how much people in our marketplace, Toronto, actually watched Pittsburgh unless they were playing the Leafs. But Pittsburgh really re-energized their brand last year. And a big part of it was the enthusiasm of the coaches and the play, believe it or not, of Erik Karlsson, who was really, really solid throughout most of the year.
I have a sense Swedes are much like Canadians. They get along with everyone. So you put a Canadian on a team, you don't have to insulate them with other Canadians. So I don't know if the Swedish connection is as strong as people may make it out to be because Karlsson has been around the league for a while. He doesn't need people from the same country, I'm sure, to feel comfortable.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that. I do also think, though, there's a relationship he has with Daniel from when he broke into the league in Ottawa. Daniel was a guy that kind of shepherded him through. I remember talking to Greg Carville, who was the assistant coach at the time, working with the defense in Ottawa. He's now the great head coach at the University of Massachusetts. He coached Cale Makar there. And I remember the one thing Karlsson had a tough time with in Ottawa when he broke in was pivoting to his right. And I talked to Carville about it. And he says, yeah, Alfie and I are working on it a lot with him. Alfie spends a lot of time with him. So there is that built-in relationship, though, I think that you got to pay attention to just a little bit.
Not only that, Dan, the similarities don't end there. I hear the president of Norway is trying to rename their lakes. So that's another commonality they have with Canada. Pierre, for all these the off-season moves that have happened here with this Leafs team, and now we're like kind of into speculative territory, or actually completely speculative territory. What point of this offseason does that start? And then we all focus on what is in front of us here, because now we're talking about Karlsson. Haven't heard much about the Morgan Riley thing. It seems as though he's staying put for now. But is this offseason done for the Leafs? Is acquisition now moved into fall, winter, and whatnot, and just people they can call up from the minors?
I think the expectation level for the team is to be relevant in terms of being a playoff team. And so I would imagine the first 10 to 15 games, they're going to have a real good idea of the kind of team they have, Kyle. And if they don't have the kind of team they want or the record they want, I think they'll be really proactive. I don't think they made a lot of these offseason moves. And if you look at the players they brought in, they're mostly older players. They didn't bring those guys in just to suck up salary cap space. They brought those players in to help them win and get in the playoffs and be relevant again. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I really believe Gavin McKenna and Easton Cowan are going to help those older players because of their youthful enthusiasm. And I expect Nylander and Austin Matthews and Johnny Tavares. By the way, Johnny Tavares had a great year last year, but I expect all three of those players to have big years, and I expect Matthew Nyes to continue to take another step up the ladder. Nyes is the important part here. He's kind of being overshadowed by those other guys because they're older, but they need Matthew Nyes to have a huge comeback. They really do.
Do you have a dark horse from the Marlies team that you see may crack the lineup and surprise some people?
Marshall Rafai. I really believe Marshall Rafai out of Harvard University is a guy that can really skate. He's a left shot. He can play the left side or the right side. He's got a little bit of seasoning because this will be, I think, his 4th year pro, if I remember. It's either his 4th or his 5th, but I think it's his 4th. And I've known Marshall. I used to train Marshall in the summers. And I know one thing. He's got athleticism. He's not shy. And he can make a good first pass. They don't need anything fancy from their depth defensemen. They need guys that are just solid and can play and not going to complain about their roles. And I think he's a guy like that.
Pierre, how about this? We've talked so much about the potential for 2 strong power play units, and not only that, a restructured power play with Hiller behind the bench because that's such a focus for him. What can we expect from the penalty kill from this Toronto Maple Leafs team this season?
That's a good question. I think good, actually. I look at some of the additions, like Nicky Paul's a really good penalty killer. I had Nicky in Ottawa. Tremendous guy, very coachable. And I know he's going to play with a lot of vim, vigor, and vitality because he's coming home. And so I think you look at the additions subtly. I think there's some good guys on that penalty kill that will make a difference. And I think with Tanev, as long as Christopher can stay healthy, he makes a huge difference on their PK. He and McCabe can be tremendous on the PK. So I can see this penalty kill being a top 10 penalty kill in the league. And I see the power play being a top 8 power play in the league. And if both of those, the power play and the penalty kill, are within the top 10 to top 8 in the league, they're a playoff team. They will be a playoff team.
Okay, now into the nitty gritty, the business side of things, Pierre. Toronto Maple Leafs ticket prices. You knew they were never going to go down, but seeing lots of complaints online about how certain sections of the arena really went up for this upcoming season.
Yeah, that's tough. I've been reading the same things that you just talked about, Dano, and I feel so bad for the fans, especially for the families. I remember when I was a little kid, my first game, my grandfather took me from Montreal down to Old Madison Square Garden, not the new one that everybody sees now, Old Madison Square Garden. And I became addicted. I was 5 years old. It was the lights, it was the smell, it was the smoke in the arena, it was the popcorn, it was a stale beer, it was the sound of the puck hitting the boards. It was watching, all the great Montreal Canadiens players playing against the Boston or the New York Ranger players. I will always remember that. I became addicted. I'm 5 years old. And I think about all the kids that haven't had a chance. And I was reading this the other day, and I got to tell you and Kyle this, it's really quick. I'm the head coach of the Hartford Whalers in the old building in Ottawa. We're playing there on December 23rd. I'm not kidding you. And it's the last game before the break, and we are really starting to come as a group. We're playing really well. And I went up and watched the warm-up in the corner. And sitting next to me in the corner, and I was just really under the radar, was a young boy and his father. And I had my cell phone, and I kind of sent a message down, and I said, "Hey, could you do me a favor and bring some pucks up?" And to our trainer, and our trainer brought some pucks up, and I gave it to the young man and his father. And I said to the little boy, "Make sure you say thank you to your dad." And he goes, "This is the best Christmas present I ever could have got." How many of those kids will we lose because of the ticket prices? That's the first thing I thought of. Oh, that boy's probably like I was when I was 5 years old. He got hooked to the game. Because when you go see it live, especially in a nice venue, and that one, where the 67s play, that was a cool venue to go watch an NHL game. It really was. You were on top of the game. I thought of that the other day. I'm like, that's so sad. And I don't know how many families are going to be able to take their kids to games. And that's what I thought of.
I got to see a few games at that arena. My question to you about that Whalers Senators game, was Peter Sidorkiewicz in net for you or the Senators?
Not for me. Peter wasn't with us.
Okay.
I think Darren Madeley might have been the goalie for Ottawa actually that night. I think it was Darren.
Okay.
Pierre, I want to continue that thought you just had about children seeing games, because that's also the first thing that I thought of here, and the importance of that. Like, listen, Toronto Maple Leafs tickets are always going to be some of the most expensive in the NHL, and that's fine because they're a storied franchise and
I
all of
just
that.
looked it up. They went up about $50 a ticket on
And then
average.
we're talking about back of the upper deck section here
Yeah.
too. $50 on average. Okay, so let's just paint a scenario, because I decided to open up Amazon's website here in front of me for a comparison. You have whether a husband and wife, 2 children, to go to a game, park or transit, however you get there. Maybe you live close to the arena, get a few refreshments in there, or stay home, buy a pretty mid to upper level 75-inch 4K TV and get Uber Eats. It's the same price as going to one game.
Yeah.
How can you justify that? Because we all know, obviously, as people talking about the game, the view on TV is ideal. However, if you want to expose kids to the game, you need the smells and the scents and the sounds of the arena to set that in. Boys and girls hockey is so powerful and popular now. It seems like, going to the W might be the choice to see professional hockey now.
First of all, I commend you for your take, Kyle. Secondly, there's one sport that's really built for TV. It's football. It's football.
Yeah. Yeah.
Football's built for TV. It's much better to watch
And
a
golf.
football game. Golf
It
as
really,
well.
yeah, it really is.
But
Both of those.
that football is better to watch. Hockey, you got to be in the rink. It's way
You do.
better. It's a totally different game. You appreciate the velocity of the players, the velocity of the puck, the save the goalie makes in tight, the sights and sounds of a big hit or a fight or whatever you might be into. You don't get the same energy on TV. You just don't. You get crushed. I read stuff where people say, as a New Yorker, I can go to Florida and see a game of the Florida Panthers, and it's cheaper for me to fly there, spend the night, watch 2 games, and come home rather than go to a Ranger game. I think Toronto's trending in that same area as the Rangers are. That's not a good place to be.
Here's what the in-arena, in-stadium experience gives you, and this is what I always looked forward to as a kid. When you walk into the stadium and you're walking by the entrances to each section and you get a glimpse of the ice or the field for the first time, and you're like, it's real. It's real. You don't get that at home.
No, not a chance. And some teams, especially with local producers that are good, they try to give you that by having a camera walk through the doorway.
Oh,
and you
yeah.
see it. It's not the same. It's a good try, and it's really creative.
Yeah.
But to Dano's point, it is not the same. It's just not.
And also on top of that, to your point, Dan, for those little boys and girls who are aspiring, maybe in their dreams or maybe in reality, they're that good to become a professional hockey player, you need to feel that atmosphere to get excited about wanting to be on that ice and having all those people watch you and cheer you on, because you don't get that same thing on TV. You don't get the energy of a building. And to price families out of these games and not offer any cheap blocks of seats anymore, not that they ever did, but to increase them further after the season they had last year, Gavin McKenna ain't that expensive yet.
What's the solution, Pierre? Because as I said off the top of this discussion, we know the prices are never coming down.
No, never.
I liked what Pittsburgh used to do. They used to have a thing called College Rush, and they'd put out maybe 500 to 1,000 seats. You'd have to wait in line. You'd have to buy them before whatever. And sometimes kids would sleep in tents. It's a lot like what Duke does in basketball. And I know Sidney Crosby and a bunch of players used to bring pizzas to where the tents were set up, or bring, coffee or hot chocolate, whatever you might think of. But it created an atmosphere around the old Civic Arena in Pittsburgh. And I know they've tried to do it in Carolina as well. I think it's kind of a cool thing. I don't know if you can do that or not in a city like Toronto. I just don't know. But I do know this. I think in an 18,000 seat building, and you're an NHL owner, and you can't find a way to have 2,000 seats at a certain price point to encourage families to come, I think we've lost our way a little bit.
Yeah, those fans aren't shareholders.
No.
Kyle, I did have one question. What was the brand of TV? What was the brand of TV?
TCL 75-inch QM64L series.
Where are you going
is
with
that?
this?
Well, are you shopping, Dan? I can help you out.
No, I just want to, like, that TV. So you're only looking, that TV's going to be good for a year, maybe.
No. It's on sale right now, 23% off. It's a good TV, Dan. TCLs are high end now.
I've never heard of the brand, so hey, you're more.
You've never heard of TCL?
No.
Dan,
Can
they
I
make
say
high-end
something in French? Moi non plus. Me neither.
Really?
Yeah.
When's the last time you guys shopped for a TV?
Last year, my wife did it, but she did a good job.
What'd you get? A Samsung?
I don't know. I have to ask her.
It's a TCL. You just don't know. It's a TCL or a Hisense. You just never looked at it close, Pierre. You sit on the couch.
Okay,
and
now
press the
I'll
power
look.
button.
Now I have a new brand to look out for. Thanks, Pierre.
Thanks, gentlemen. Talk to you next week.